You have a TV?
No. I just like to read the TV guide. Read the TV guide. You don't need a TV.
Television addict! Television addict! Television addict!
Hello, everybody. Ken Reed here, your TV guidance counselor, back for another week of TV guidance counselor. It is the, COVID-19 global pandemic apocalypse lockdown series of TV guidance counselor. Thanks to everyone who listened last week to Kelly Dunham's show. Had a great time talking to Kelly. Check out her special. This week is my next guest who I've recorded with remotely. My guest this week is Kate Kennedy. Kate is an adult performer as well as a comedian and a collector of vintage Care Bears, which we did not talk about in this episode, but her and I have discussed at length. Not in this episode, because I find that very interesting. She's very funny. She's very sweet. I had a great time talking to her, and I think you will enjoy very much hearing me talk to her. But before that, I want to say thank you guys for sticking with the show. I know that times are tough and that you have a lot of stuff that you can listen to or watch in addition to just feeling bad. And it is a huge honor to me that you choose to continue to listen to the show despite everything. I also am sort of transitioning to being able to do the show remotely. It's not something that I would do often before, but for the foreseeable future, it is the way that it will be done. I mailed TV guides to people, but I'm starting to scan them, so we'll both have PDFs. It's a whole thing, but I'm getting better every week, and I also had to rebuild my computer after this episode, not because of Kate. Kate did not ruin my computer, everybody. That was just because it's old, and I had to replace it with a solid state. It's a whole thing, but thanks to Giovanni from the Pod Gods podcast for helping me do that. So anyway, please sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of TV Guidance Counselor with my guest, Kate Kennedy.
TV is my friend, and it has been always there for me in time of need.
Live via satellite, Kate Kennedy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I'm doing okay. It is, it's about 40 degrees and pouring rain here, and you're in sunny Hollywood where it is 100 degrees and sunny.
It is currently actually 79 degrees in Hollywood.
Okay.
It's not too bad. Hollywood is like downwind, or it's like down the hill a little bit, so it's usually like 10 degrees cooler.
I always stay in the valley, so I'm usually used to it being ridiculously hot.
The valley is where it gets really fucking hot, and I used to live in the valley, and I was like, this is not... First of all, the valley costs more than Hollywood nowadays.
Oh,
Can
really?
you believe that?
I guess it's more suburban, so that makes sense.
Yeah, because the like apartments and houses tend to be bigger, so they cost more. You're further away from like any of, like I always say, living in the valley costs just as much as living in LA without all of the fun LA stuff.
Do you want to live in an industrial park for the price of living in Hollywood?
Would you like to live in beautiful Reseda?
Did you see Cobra Kai? Did you like strip malls in Tarzana?
How are your feelings on Boogie Nights? I used to live right down the street from the theater that they used for Boogie Nights.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So did you grow up in California?
No, I grew up in Colorado. I've lived in LA since 2018.
Okay.
I moved here in July of 2018.
Whereabouts in Colorado? Like Denver area?
Boulder.
Okay.
A little outside of Boulder, yeah. So, and I went to college in Boulder, and I lived there until I moved to Portland, which is a nice segue into, like, why I'm on here and what my job is. I worked in the adult industry, and I had my first job in the industry working as a PA on a set up in Portland.
I didn't even know they shot stuff in Portland.
They don't really. There's a couple of companies up there. So the one that I worked for was like a very, they're small. They've been around for a long time. They were wonderful to work for, but they're kind of like an extreme hardcore BDSM site.
Okay.
So it was really fun because we were getting to like build these crazy rigs and like lock hot girls into them, and like I wore combat boots every day. It was such a fun job.
So it's like artisanal, old school pornography in a very Portland way.
Yes, it's a very Portland style of pornography, and I worked there, and it was really fun, and I started shooting a little bit for them, and I was dancing, because Portland is the strip club capital of America.
The only place I've ever been to a strip club, and I lasted about 2 minutes.
Oh, Which one did you go to?
I'm not sure. I've done well, they don't have it anymore, but I used to do the Bridgetown Comedy Festival often.
Oh, yeah.
And they would do like a Bridgetown comedians strip club crawl.
Oh, cool.
And so the first one we went to was around the corner from, is it Ground Control, the barcade?
Okay.
Downtown. So we started at the barcade and then went around the corner from there.
Probably like Mary's or like Lucky Devil.
Mary sounds familiar. It was super small and it had like this probably describes all of them, but it had like a little teeny stage.
I worked at the world's only vegan strip club. It's in Portland. There's actually 2 of them now because it's a chain.
It's a chain?
But, yeah, it's a small chain, but there's 2 of them.
Oh, wow.
And it's called Casa Diablo. It's themed after the 1997 Dusk Till Dawn movie.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's all like Mexican bordello themed, and that's like very generous. It's just a dive.
Yeah,
that's a
weird...
It used to be like a pirate hut for a while. Like, it's a dive, and like, it's super fun. I loved it. It was really casual. Like, I would dance in like Timberlands and like a beanie and like a flannel and like a G-string.
Very Pacific Northwest.
Portland. And I loved it. And their motto is sizzle, not steak. We put the meat on the pole, not on your plate. It's fantastic.
A couple things about that. One, it's weird to have a vegan strip club that is based on a vampire movie because that is the least vegan you can get.
Right? I think that's part of the owner is this guy, Johnny, this like old school, like hardcore straight edge vegan. Like, I feel like I could be I think. And I'm like 5'3". I would not cross Johnny.
Oh, he's like an Earth Crisis vegan.
He's like militant. Like, he was you didn't have to be vegan to work there, but like if you got him on a bad night, you'd end up sitting there for like 20 minutes just like listening to like the slaughter of cows. Like, Johnny, I have to work.
Here's some aversion therapy.
Yeah.
The other thing
is not making me want to grind on anyone's genitals right now.
Is this getting you hot? Here's some pig squealing. Which may be a thing that was filmed by that company.
Right.
But I also feel like you should have a pirate themed restaurant that has no location and they just show up at other restaurants.
Like a pop-up?
Yeah, but like they take over that restaurant for the night.
That would be really, I would watch that on E!
Yeah, pirate restaurants.
Yeah.
So Colorado, weirdly, I've had a bunch of people on the show from Colorado, and you're the 3rd one who grew up in Colorado who is also a stripper.
That's so funny.
Felicia Michaels, who's a very funny comedian, and Cassandra Peterson, who is Elvira, both grew up in Colorado and stripped in Colorado. Both of them grew up in Colorado Springs, though, so they stripped for the very conservative military people.
I was gonna say, Colorado Springs is like whenever people are looking at moving to Colorado, which they are all the time in LA because it's still cheap. It's not that much cheaper than here anymore, but it used to be. And whenever people are like, "Oh yeah, I was looking at Colorado Springs, like it's so beautiful," and I'm like, yeah, that's where they blow up Planned Parenthoods. Like,
yeah,
I would live anywhere else.
Yeah,
as someone from there.
A friend of mine who grew up there described it as if Donald Rumsfeld was a place.
That's exactly what it's like. And I was just thinking about this too because I had moved down to LA to pursue adult film and comedy because I also do stand up.
Of course, they go hand in hand.
Hand in hand. It's all the freaks and outcasts of the world. And writing. So, because I've been working on, I always wanted to write a book about the adult industry, and I thought it was really interesting. And two, I think, like, as a comic or anyone that wants to be a writer, like, I kind of looked at it as, like, I'm a pretty white girl from Colorado. Like, I have to have some sort of edge.
Fair enough.
Like, there's nothing interesting about me up until, like, on paper. Like, there's nothing that would be like, oh, I should talk to this person. Colorado Springs is a trip. Boulder is, like, the polar opposite of that. It's very, very liberal, and that's where the college is, and so I went to school there. I lived, like, 3 blocks away from JonBenet Ramsey's house when I lived there.
Oh, nice.
College.
Nice local landmark. Yeah, I was, when I was in middle school, because I was a really cool kid and all the girls loved me, I was in a thing called Odyssey of the Mind.
Oh, man, I know Odyssey of the Mind. My school did not have a team. I went to a small Catholic school.
We made it.
I wanted it so bad. All my public school friends got to do it.
You didn't miss out on much, although we did make it to the World Finals in Boulder, Colorado one year at University of Colorado.
So you've been there?
I have. We stayed in the dorms and everything.
Nice. I lived for my first year. It was fun. It's a beautiful school.
Yeah, it's a nice area. I also go out every year. Well, not this year because we're in a global pandemic and we're all going to die. But I go out every year for Denver Comic Con. So I always run the panels and stuff there. So that's really cool. And for every single time I go there, even though, I mean, I'm definitely not in the best shape I've ever been in my life, but I'm not in like horrific shape. But every time I go to Colorado, I forget about the altitude. And the first flight of stairs I go up, I'm like, Jesus, I'm in awful shape.
Everybody does. And I have so many friends, especially from California, that'll be like, because, Colorado's beautiful. Like, I get it. But they'll be like, oh, yeah, we're going to go rock climbing. We're going to go Red Rocks. I'm like, okay, but you're going to drink the whole time. So, like, the first day, just sit in your hotel room and, like, don't do shit. Like, if you don't, you will get so fucking sick. Like, I remember my grandma coming to visit us when I was a kid and her just, like, laying on our couch downstairs, like,
kill me.
There's no oxygen here. And even now when I go back, because I have lived away for so long now, like, I go baback and I'm like, holy shit, like, we're not in Los Angeles anymore, baby.
You need a Michael Jackson decompression chamber or you get the bends. I did the Aspen Comedy Festival in 2006, and the first, like, 2 days, I think, I saw maybe 4 people pass out, not drinking.
Like, the first school at CU is hilarious because CU is mostly out-of-state students. It's, like, the flagship campus. So it's all kids that couldn't get into the University of California system. It's, like, people that didn't get into UCLA.
It's close enough, and it starts with a C.
Right, yeah. It's people that didn't. UCLA was their second choice. Berkeley was their first. They didn't get into Berkeley. That's what it is. And so, like, the first week there, and I remember, like, my roommate was from California. Like, everybody is just they take like one sip of beer and they're hammered because they're 18.
Yeah,
and they're from sea level.
Your money goes a lot further.
It does. It does. You can have cheap dates up in Colorado.
What year was the Real World Colorado? That was in the 2000s.
Oh, yeah, that was a long time ago. I definitely had a friend of a friend that, like, knew someone that was on the Real World Denver. Right.
Because that
high school.
Because that one I remember was just like the classic fighting in fucking Real World. That
was like the old school Real World. It was one of the first ones.
Well, the first one was New York, and then they did LA, then San Francisco, then London, and then Boston. And Boston was when I was like a punk rock teenager, and we used to go and like throw bricks at the house.
That's awesome.
Be badass. So speaking of the Real World in television, this is my great segue because I'm a professional. I sent you an issue from 2004, which was a little bit earlier than you wanted because you normally people end up picking when they're between ages like 8 and 12 because that's when you have your own taste and can like things, but you can't leave the house. So I would have been in 5th grade when this one came out. So I would have been that age, but I definitely did not get to really establish my own taste in television. Right, you were saying that.
Like 15, 16.
So your parents are very conservative? Is that what you were saying?
They kind of were. They just are also, like, I don't know how else to describe it other than, like, they were not in the zeitgeist at all. They just exist outside of, like, I grew up listening to, like, John Cougar Mellencamp. And, like, watching Cheers and, like, thinking this was contemporary.
That's not a bad thing.
The clock stopped for them in the early 90s. They were like, that's culture. And everything else afterwards doesn't matter.
I actually like your parents and feel like I have a lot in common with them now.
Like, I do too as an adult, because now I look at everything, I'm like, oh, actually I do. But at the time, I felt like, I remember having a conversation with my sister one time, and she said something like, I'm the amazing Britney, and my mom, like, ran and was like, you're not doing Britney Spears stuff, right? And I was, like, baffled, because first of all, I barely knew who that was, and also, like, I didn't understand, like, what was so upsetting to them about it.
Right.
So I did grow up very, like, not sheltered in that I didn't hear, like, dirty jokes or, like, comedy, but I just heard such a small bubble of it. And I think as an adult, and then in high school when I started to be like, okay, I had, like, a computer in my room, and I was like, I would download, like, illegal pirates of, like, shows that I wanted to watch onto my video iPod.
Right. Like what? What would you throw on there?
I would watch, like, I really liked the British version of Skins when it was on. It still fucking holds up. It's a fantastic show, like, a great cast. And I remember that being like, okay, this felt more like, I mean, it was obviously a very glamorized version of being a teenager, but it felt more like what I was going through.
I had Josie Long, writer on that show, has been on this show.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm a huge fan of that show. I think it's cool too because they do that thing that a lot of British shows do where they just redo the whole cast and start the show over. And I think American television never gets that correct.
The systems are totally different because I started doing stand-up when I lived in England, and I went to school there.
Oh, cool.
And it was such a revelation where I was like, oh, you mean the people who write the shows are in the show? And you have maybe one or two people and they only do enough episodes to just be good?
Yeah, and then they stop and then they're just like, okay, the concept's good, so let's do it and let's keep the concept and do it in a different way. That's why Doctor Who's been on for,
60 years?
50,
yeah.
60 years? Yeah.
Yeah, because it still works. So I'm jealous of you being younger than me for many reasons, but because you were able to access that stuff relatively easily. Like, it sounds like you had to MacGyver a little bit of a system there, but you were able to get shows from the UK, whereas I was sort of at the mercy of what might be airing late at night on, like, Bravo.
Yeah, and I think I was very much probably one of the first, now that I look at it, like one of the first generations that had that ability to not only, and I definitely did trash an HP brand PC that I probably bought
Right.
for like $300 with like babysitting money.
At Circuit City.
Yeah, right. I think about it at Best Buy. To be able to then take it and then rip it onto like a portable device, even though it would take, it took hours to get a single episode. And I remember having to download them in 7-part clips. It was an enormous undertaking. Like because I couldn't watch them in the house. And then I remember my dad found them on my iPod one time. He wanted to like see my songs or whatever because he was trying to like get hip. And he got really into Imagine Dragons for a while. There were some dark years. I remember he like gave back to me, like, hey, you can't be watching that Skins show. It's not appropriate. I'm not going to tell your mom. It's not appropriate.
Which just makes you want to watch it more.
I was like, I'm definitely going to continue doing this. Like, you gave it back to me with no consequence or... Like, I'm going to continue doing the exact... I'm going to hide it in a different labeled folder.
That was just to clear his conscience, so he could be like, well, I told her.
Yeah, right. I think a lot of my parenting was like that.
At least you had parenting, which you're one up on me. But it's interesting because that hadn't occurred to me, because one of the things I always sort of talk about on this show is those of us that sort of grew up pre-millennium and watched these shows, they tended to stick in our brain more because we had to work for them, or, even though we had a VCR or, DVR, you kind of soaked it all in as you watched it because you didn't know when you would see it again, and you were invested in it. And you've pointed out a flaw in my theory here, in that there is a hole in time of people that are your age where you really worked for that show. And I bet if you didn't like it, you still would have made every possible attempt to like that show because you went through so much trouble to get it.
Oh, totally. I remember I started doing it after the first cast, like, retired. And, like, Tony gets hit by a bus. Like, that's how that season ends. Like, the main character just gets run over by a bus.
Classic.
Like, I remember trying to, like, do it with the next season, and I didn't like the characters as much. And I was like, well, fuck this. Like, not gonna,
Not gonna spend 8 hours hacking to get this thing.
No, yeah, like, the very sophisticated that I was doing at the time. Yeah, I think I did, like, exist in that little particular, and I knew friends that did similar things with other shows that they weren't allowed to watch, too, because I did go to Catholic school, and so I think everyone was a little sheltered like that. But as I got older and, like, your parents stopped being quite, so, like, I got really into SNL when I was in, like, early high school and would watch it every Saturday because I had a ton of friends and lots of stuff to do on Saturday nights.
Same.
Everyone that gets into SNL as a teenager is a loser.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like, it's not because you're not doing anything.
Yeah, I used to watch SNL, and I would from my house I could see one of the elementary schools where all the kids would go drink, and I would call the cops on them, watch them all run away, and then I would sneak down and steal their beers and then resell them to them at school, and they never figured it out.
That is brilliant. I have a CU story that's a little like that, where I think it was almost spring break or something, and I was dating an older guy, so I always had alcohol. But it was towards the end, I was, like, cleaning up my room, and this girl's frantically texting me, like, I need booze, I'm going to Macklemore or something tonight. And it was 2012, so. And I was like, okay, I have, 6 cans of Natty Light, and I think I sold them to her for, like, $50 or something. Like,
That
it was
was
something insane.
That was exactly what I stole. And I think by the end of it, they paid about $50 a can, but they bought the same cans about 6 times.
Yeah. I was just like, I was like, how? She's like, how much? I was like, how much will you pay for this? 'Cause, like, this is a very limited supply, and the demand is way up.
How much do you got? Yeah.
I just took micro. I know how this works.
Because the funny thing about SNL is someone said the best thing about it that I've ever heard, and I should look it up because I never attribute who it was, and I should, but they said there's a definitive answer to what the best season and the best cast of SNL is, and it's inarguable. And the best season of SNL with the best cast is whatever one you watched when you were 12.
Yep. I've heard this, but like your favorite cast is always the one you grew up with.
Yeah, and it's for nerds. It's nerdy, teens and tweens. That's who that show really is for.
Totally. It's people that are excited to stay up until midnight. Like, now if you told me I had to watch SNL live, like, I'd just think this is a punishment. Like,
yeah, I'd be like, how much are you going to pay me for that?
What? That's so late. I went to bed at 10 o'clock last night.
Yeah, I used to never sleep. I used to sleep maybe 2 hours a night, and now I'm like, 9 is a little late.
Yeah. Like, you want to hang out at what time? Like, all people be like, let's get together for a drink at 10. I'm like, you have the wrong audience.
Oh, yeah. When I do shows, or if I ever do them again, because we're locked down in a global pandemic, I'm always like, I'll go first. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, what you don't understand is
I'm going to leave.
I'm going to be asleep before the show is over.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm going to be home.
Yeah. I'm not going to another show.
I hosted, when I first started doing stand-up, I was doing a show at the Comedy Store every month here in LA. And that was how I got started in stand-up, which is just like a chum the water.
So you just got a gig hosting at the Comedy Store?
I got a gig to open for Jamie Kennedy at the Comedy Store.
Okay.
And I had done another podcast for my friend David Smalley, who's a comedian and does a podcast here in LA. I met him through a friend of a friend, and I did his podcast. We had a good time, and he was like, you're really funny. And I had mentioned, like, I'd always wanted to try stand-up. Mm-hmm. And he was like, you're really funny. If you want to do 5 minutes, like, put together 5 minutes, you can open my show. Like, I trust you. You just did this podcast with me. I was like, okay, awesome. So it ended up, there was this whole hullabaloo about my first anal scene getting canceled. I didn't think I was going to get to do it. And then, like, it had been booked, and then it got canceled at the last minute. And so I called him, and I was like, hey, I can still do the show. Can I still do it? And he's like, yeah, sure. So I had, like, a day, and I'd never written comedy. Like, I had to Google how to write stand-up comedy. I was like, I don't know. And so I wrote this whole thing. I got super drunk and like called my mom and cried, which I never do, because she's not a very supportive person. She's like, it's okay if you're bad. I was like, that's not what you want to hear.
It's what I expect.
Yeah, but it ended up going super, super well. So I just did that show for like 6 months, and I started hosting it because I was still such a new comic that I had started talking to Smalley about it, and I was like, dude, like I have 1 5-minute set. The first thing I've ever written, that's it. Like, I can't just keep doing, like he would throw me in for, like, 10 minutes, and I'd done comedy 3 times. And I was like, I can't do that. So I started hosting it a lot, because I was good at, I like doing the crowd work and the riffing. And, like,
right.
And I was usually the only woman on the show, too, so it works out kind of nice to have, like, the woman be the host.
Yeah, to have that sort of continuity.
So, yeah.
But I mean, a tale as old as time. I can't tell you how many of us had our first gig because our first anal scene was canceled.
I know. It's just the classic Comedy Store.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Chris Rock, Jerry Seinfeld, like everybody. That's how everyone gets.
Yeah, I remember Sam Kinison. If he had shot that scene, we never would have had his career.
I know. Think about I mean, they would have had different careers maybe, but
I never could enjoy myself at the Comedy Store. It's so tap out. Like, to me, it was so broy. I remember the last time I did a show there, I was doing a fundraiser in the big room, and the girl who was running the fundraiser was from, I don't even remember the charity now, but Marin came in and like was like, hey, can I get some time on the show? And she was like, who are you? And then he was like, oh, Mark Maron, and she was like, no.
that's awesome.
And it was such a weird, just like me, Kathy Ladman, and Judd Apatow. And then she told Marin he couldn't. I was like, all right, I'm gonna never come back here again because this is a high note that'll never be topped.
Right. It is a very I realized how rarefied it was. Like, I was aware going into it that, like, okay, this is not something everyone gets to do. And like, I was, I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, it's because I, like, do adult film, and, like, and I had told them, too, I was like, you wouldn't give me this if you didn't genuinely think I could do it, right? Like, I'm not, like, just here to look pretty and like get sympathy.
Oh, yeah, because no one wants a terrible show.
Yeah, and you're not gonna get to do like a show 6 times if you suck, no matter how cute you are. And I'm not cute enough to. I'm not cute enough to think 6 times.
Let me tell you about Jimmy Fallon.
Oh, I have a great segue into this actually from the TV guide that I have. So one of my favorite segments of this, because I went and picked out all my programming, but then I went through the rest of it. This is actually the first time I've ever used a TV guide.
Wow, have you ever looked through one before, or just first?
I flipped through one before.
Okay.
Like at like my grandma, but we always had, my dad's very techie, so we always had DirectTV when I was a kid.
Ah, so you had the on-screen guide.
We always had the on-screen guide, and then we had like TiVo. He's very like, he likes the house tech, so now like his whole house, like you just talk to Siri for anything.
Oh, he's smart house guy.
Yeah, and actually I was there over Christmas, and I was like alone, and I had some wine, and I couldn't figure out how to turn the TV off because his remote doesn't have any fucking buttons on it.
What?
I know. And I was like, it was like 1 a.m, and I was like, fuck, how do I couldn't figure out what to do. So I was like, Siri, turn off the TV. Turn off the TV. And like, apparently that was not hooked up, function. And so like, I think I turned the brightness all the way down and muted it and went to bed. I just
That's a clever approach, though.
You know, and then my dad the next morning, he's like, were you yelling at Siri to turn off the TV last night? I was like, yeah, you don't have any fucking buttons on. I'm like, you went to bed. Like, I didn't know what to do. And he's like, oh, that's such a good idea. I'm going to fit. And then he spent the entire day figuring out how to get Siri to turn the TV off.
So you improved his life.
I don't know. He spent like 4 hours doing it, so maybe I stole those 4 hours.
But think of all the time he's saved pushing buttons since then.
Anyways, back to TV guide under Cheers and Jeers section. Yes. There is a blurb about, it's a cheer for Saturday Night Live for the inspiring pairing of Tina Fey and Amy Poehler as the first all-female co-anchor team of Weekend Update. Poehler may need some time to match Faye's comedic confidence behind the fake news desk, but she already seems more comfortable delivering a one-liner than her predecessor, Jimmy Fallon, who coasted along on his charm and cuteness, ever did.
Yeah, that's it. Cheers and Jeers is amazing because it's anonymous, so the writers can be as bitchy as they want, and they often are, and it's like the most real section of the TV guide. Like,
first of all, what a burn to Jimmy Fallon. Second of all, I love that it's in this one because I do remember this happening, and I remember, like, I'm a huge Tina Fey and Amy Poehler fan. 30 Rock and Parks and Rec are 2 of my all-time favorite sitcoms of ever. It's cool to see this in here because this is the cast before I started watching it.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I started watching it, Seth Meyers was doing Weekend Update alone. But it was really cool to get to see that when I like flipped it open and be like, oh, I completely remember that happening and that being a thing.
Yeah, I think they didn't have a female anchor before that since Jane Curtin co-hosted with Dan Aykroyd in like 1978.
Yeah. It's fucked up, and it's like it just goes to prove what we've been saying for quite a while now. These days, it's the women who rule us now. Yeah,
it's funny. Bonnie Hunt is one of my all-time heroes, who weirdly I got to have on the show, but she actually turned down SNL because at the time they only hired women as writers or performers, not writer-performers.
Oh, man.
So she literally told Lorne Michaels to go fuck himself. And Tina Fey was originally just a writer because they didn't hire writer-performers so as women. I always joke that SNL was my baseball when I was growing up. Like, I could rattle off stats and all that stuff. And I always wanted to work there until I had friends that work there, and I'm like, oh, it's the worst job in the world.
I've never heard anyone say, at least recently, since like probably the 70s or the 80s, say that like it was a positive environment.
No, I've never known anyone. Well, people I know are like, I'm glad I did it, but I would not do it if I was given the choice again.
Yeah. Oh, I think you'd always be glad you've done it, but I would definitely do it the way he did. Where I'd like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm 23 and I'm burnt out. There's a piece like Pete Davidson said it, I think last year to the New Yorker too. He's like, I want to quit. He literally was just like, I want to leave. Everyone's mean to me.
Yeah, I bet.
That was the whole thing. I was like, yep, probably. I believe you.
Yeah, I mean, Lorne Michaels, who is just an evil person, he thrives on sort of pitting people against each other in that like competition, and it's miserable. It's absolutely miserable.
And I really hate that is such a like misnomer in comedy too, that like you have to be miserable for your work to be good. And Gary Goldman talked about that, and it was one of my favorite specials of last year.
Yeah.
His like The Great Depression, where he's sitting talking to someone, and he's like, yeah, like I hate this myth because like I didn't write shit when I was depressed. I wanted to die.
Yeah, I mean, Gary's a buddy, and when he was going through, in fact, there's a clip in the special of a show that I was hosting.
Oh, that's cool.
But
I'm a huge fan of it. I like also suffer with severe depression.
Same.
Watching that was so like, I was like, oh yes, like everything you're saying.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Makes total sense to me. And actually watching that made me be a lot more comfortable, like coming out and talking about it.
Right.
And saying, because I think there is in comedy and especially in porn too, like there's definitely this idea of being like a fantasy and like not having any problem. And for a long time I tried to like portray that image, and I was like, this is not true. Like these jobs are difficult, and I want to talk about why they're difficult.
Oh yeah, and if you have to live up to like a weird unattainable image, I can't say it's the same for porn, as I have not done that, but I imagine it is. It's really, really tiring. And at the same time though, you know, you don't want to go on stage and just wallow in stuff, which Gary was doing, because he clearly was hurting, didn't know what else to do. But I do know a lot of comics who are like, oh, I can't go on medication because I won't have, and I'm like, dude, you'll get out of your own way and you'll be a lot better. Like you'll just have a clearer vision of what you're doing. And I'm glad that people are starting to come around to that, because for years it was the like, Lenny Bruce suffering heroin addict to be funny. And it's like, no, you should watch Lenny Bruce when he was a heroin addict. He's real bad.
No, most people are fucking terrible when they're at that spot. Like,
absolutely.
And so many comics do struggle with that. Like, I don't want to say it's a prerequisite, but it's,
Well, I mean, it's why we develop.
It's incredibly common.
Yeah, I mean, it's why we develop, I think, our sense of humor is that, we tend to be anxious, so you overthink everything. Yeah. B, you tend to look at the world in an odd way, which can be funny, but also terrifying. And C, you develop this sense of humor as not so much a defense mechanism, but it's a coping. Yeah, it's a coping tool.
I tell people that too, and that's always been my natural inclination with things, because like I try to be honest about this too. Like I haven't had the worst life. A lot of people, especially in the adult industry, and there's very much that stigma too, which is also false, that everybody in porn has had this horrible life, and that none of that ever I remember having to explain that to my parents when they found out I did porn. And it was like the weirdest conversation I've ever had, where I'd be like, no one molested me.
Right. You didn't fuck up.
Never happened. Like, oh no, you fucked up. But like, in different ways. This part is that's not because of that. Like the deep-seated emotional attachment problems, that's on you guys. But like the rest of it, no, like I just really like having a job that lets me, pursue other creative careers, and also like, and I also too, again, you're saying it's a way to look at the world. And I think when you're a funny person, or just anyone that kind of lives outside of that, you see, and I don't know who to attribute this to either, but I did hear someone say it, where it's like you see the cracks. And once you start to see the cracks in the world, you just see how they all connect. And that will be insane if you can't figure out a way to joke about it. And I've always been somebody that saw those and immediately was like, okay, what do we do with this? Like, I do tend to be someone that's always, I don't wallow. And I immediately, when faced with a problem, I'm like, okay, like, let's take very, like, concrete, basic steps to fix it or deal with it, and comedy has always been that for me.
Oh yeah,
wow, this is such a fun, lighthearted topic.
It really is. So let's talk about suicide. No, it's true. It's yeah. I mean, it's disaster planning. So you're looking at a million different possibilities for a way something could go. There's a power in getting on stage and having. It's sort of like jumping out of a plane, where you're like, oh yeah, okay, I did it. I can handle that, and it sort of reinforces that you're okay.
Totally. Well, and I think too, a lot of comics are like, I know I am very socially awkward to the point where I often, and I mean, I joke about it, but it's not totally a joke, where I'm like, part of why I got into porn is because I can't get laid in the wild. Like, I'm really bad at it. Like, I'm cute, but I'm very off-putting in social situations. And,
it's the cigars, isn't it?
It totally is. It's just, I just blow smoke in everybody's faces.
Carrying that spittoon around with the chewing tobacco.
I'm just so gross, and guys don't know what to do with it. I love being on a stage in front of people. That's where I am the most comfortable. I would far rather be on stage in front of 200-300 people than in like a casual, polite conversation with 5 people. Oh,
100%. I always say that to people.
That's my nightmare.
I'm like, you can put me on a stage in a theater in front of all these strangers and I'll talk about anything, but if we're ordering a pizza and you want me to call, forget it.
I can do that. One-on-one, I'm not that bad. But, like, most, like, I'm not good in group settings. Like, and I don't enjoy it either. Like, I have I have a small social circle and I like it that way. I also think that's one of the reasons why I'm still doing so well during this catastrophe.
Right.
Is that one, I always go to the worst, like, I always prepare for the worst case scenario. I have so many fucking canned goods. Like, I could not leave my apartment for several months. And also, too, like, I genuinely enjoy being alone, and I've had to give a bunch of reviews about it, like, in the last few months with the whole OnlyFans economy being such a, like, newsworthy story now.
Right.
Because that is how I mean, the majority of my income is from OnlyFans. I don't make that much money doing studio porn anymore. And that's the way most of the industry is trending as well. But yeah, I've given so many interviews about it where they're like, well, aren't you horny? Like, doing that? I'm like, no. Like, no. I have a Hitachi. Like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I love being alone.
I have an environment I can control.
Yes. Yeah, I am moving to a bigger apartment at the end of this week because I'm feeling a little bit claustrophobic. But
I'd like to feel more alone in a bigger environment.
there, you know what? Like, I live in an old building in Hollywood, and there's only 8 one-bedrooms in it. There's like 40 units, only 8 are one-bedrooms. They don't come up very often because it's a rent-controlled building. And one of them came up like a couple of weeks ago. And so I saw it because I was just kind of browsing, and I was like, I texted my super. I was like, can I just move there? Like, it's 40 feet away from where I currently live. And I ended up, because I guess no one's moving right now.
Right.
So I didn't have to apply or put in an extra deposit. They just transferred my lease, and it's $100 a month more.
Everything's coming up, Kate, here. You're getting all kinds of...
I was like, this is, because I had a whole conversation with a couple people where I was like, it feels stupid to, like, move in the middle of the pandemic and take on an extra bill, but I was like, it's $100.
Right.
That's
right.
not, in the grand scheme of things, like, you would be stupid not to, because, like, if you wait, you know, and one, like, I would have had to re-sign my lease in June anyways, and my rent would have gone up by, like, $75.
Right. So it's a wash.
So I'm like, yeah, it's a wash. But I needed to have, like, a couple of, I think this is such a comedian trait, too. I needed a few people to, like, okay it.
Right.
Because I can't, like, give myself nice things.
Right. Like, that would be okay for me to do. That's a normal thing that people do, and they could do that, and that's not bad. They're not a bad person for that.
Yeah, especially, too, being, I mean, because I grew up so Catholic that, like, and I'm writing on this right now, but I just ascribe such heavy morality to instances and situations and behavior that just doesn't call for it.
Yeah. There's no moral decision in should you get a bigger apartment that's available in your same building.
No, there isn't. But like that is so how I was raised, and I think if you ask my parents, they would say that there is. Yeah,
I mean, it's oddly I grew up in Boston, which is just culturally Catholic. Yeah. So I always joke that I am the most I suffer from the most Catholic guilt for being an atheist that you could possibly imagine. Speaking of cults, let's jump into the TV guide and see what cult favorites are in there. No. I love tangents, and I it's more for your benefit that I don't talk to you all evening, because I will. So Saturday night, what'd you do?
Okay, Saturday night. Let me pull it up. Wait, so this is Saturday. Okay, I started with Sunday because the Sunday is the beginning one.
Oh, okay, so they must have switched.
Sunday prime time. It goes Sunday to Saturday.
They switched in 2004. It used to be Saturday to Friday.
I was confused at Saturday to Friday, so I was like, well, I'll just go do all of them. But
you're like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
There is not. I also was interesting to get so much insight into what people were watching on TV, and I think also what kinds of lifestyles people were leading in 2004, because it was really different.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You wouldn't think. I mean, I wouldn't, because it doesn't feel like that long ago in a lot of ways. But yeah, it was very different.
It doesn't feel long ago to me either, and I look at it and I'm like, oh shit, like there was nothing on TV on Saturdays and Sundays besides like movies, because people went out and did things. Most
people didn't get like high-speed internet till like 05, 06, something like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I remember, I don't think my grandparents had internet until like 2012.
Yeah, so you're like, I can't stream things, there's nothing on, let's go out.
And I do remember too, and I tell this story a lot, when, because my dad is so techie, when Netflix came about, he immediately switched from Blockbuster. And this was when Netflix was a company that sent you DVDs in the mail.
Yeah.
And we were fucking pissed. Oh my God, my sister and I were, because we lived like half a mile from a Blockbuster. So every Friday we got to go and we'd pick a movie or a video game. And all of our friends would also be there, like in our neighborhood, and we'd see everybody. And we'd get a pizza from the place next door. It was like a fucking thing.
That's a big night.
And now you're telling me we switched to this thing where we get 2 DVDs a month.
And we have to run to the mailbox?
And wait. And I remember one time my sister ordered all of the discs of Gossip Girl. 2 weeks. All we got was Gossip Girl.
2 per week for 12 weeks.
And that was it. I was like, this is fucking bullshit. Like, this is going to be, like, what a terrible company.
Yeah, that's masochistic.
This is going to tank.
I am not investing in this company.
And now I look back on it and I'm like, shit, you were correct, Bruce.
Dad
I'm so
knew.
sorry.
Dad knew.
Anyway, so Sunday night, prime time, 8 o'clock, I would watch Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
Which is the third one, I think? Second one?
The second one.
Okay.
It's the second one. And it runs for the whole time because there was nothing else on.
That's like a 4-hour movie. I've only seen the first Harry Potter. I weirdly talked my way into the premiere when I lived in London.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm a big Harry Potter fan and, like, always have been. But that would have, I remember looking at pictures.
Yep.
They were in my American Girl magazine.
Yep, I sat behind Robbie Coltrane. And there was a Lego Harry Potter there, I remember, like a life-size made out of Legos.
I saw pictures of that. I know exactly what you're talking about. I had a bunch of the Harry Potter Legos, and I always wanted the castle. My neighbor had the castle, and my parents never got it for me, because I remember it was $104. Like, very specifically, it was $104, and I remember them being like, that's insane for a Lego.
Well, you could buy it now, and in your bigger apartment, you have plenty of room for it.
I bet it's more expensive now.
Possibly.
Because I bet they don't make them anymore.
That's true.
Yeah, I could get one on, like, eBay. I wanted to buy a singing Big Mouth Billy Bass the other day.
Oh, God, those things.
I had one my grandpa had one when I was a kid. I thought it was the coolest fucking thing. I had one in college. I found it at, like, a Goodwill, and I stupidly got rid of it. And I looked the other day on eBay, they're like $110.
That's insane. Well, that's one of those things.
They're so expensive. They were only made by, like, one company in, like, Milwaukee for, like, 10 years. They were not nearly as common as we thought they were.
That's one of those things where you're like, oh, those will always be around.
No, you can't even buy them new anymore. Company went out of business like 10 years ago.
Well, that is some devastating breaking news that we just broke here for all the listeners.
But it does bring us to what I would watch on Monday.
Oh, what do you got Monday?
And that is Antiques Roadshow Part 2 in Oklahoma City.
Always my favorite. I still watch it every week. I love it. Love it, love it. What are your favorite kinds of appraisals?
I love the toys. There's a guy that does the toys, and he's kind of like a portly gentleman. And he wears, like, bow ties, I think, and he has a mustache.
Oh, yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yep, I do.
He appraised the toys on it, and they're always so cool, and they have these weird little moving parts and mechanics that do things, and that just blows my hair back. I love that shit.
I love that guy. He has a ridiculous old man Boston accent, and he'll be like, oh, this will make you laugh. His whole thing. And then there's a guy whose last name is Lowry, and he looks and acts exactly like Paul F. Tompkins, and he does the posters. That guy's a favorite.
That guy is on. I know exactly who you're talking. Yeah, I love those, and I like whenever they show anyone something that they didn't know.
Yes.
When there's, like, a hidden compartment or something, and they just get, like, or when it's someone super old that, like, bought it at a garage sale and now it's, like, worth a shit ton of money. And you can tell when they, like, tell them that they're definitely going to sell it and, like, retire to Boca.
Oh, you're way more glass half full than me. I like when people are like, my mother told me this was made by George Washington. And they're like, yeah, this is a piece of shit. It's not worth anything. I enjoy that. Or the people who, you know, they tell them this beautiful story and it's worth a good amount of money and they're so not impressed.
Right? They're like, I thought it was going to be more.
Yeah, they're like,
I like the people at the end, too. They're just like, I stuffed for $5, but we sure had fun.
I had Gary Summers on, who was like the old hippie guy who used to do toys and wore Hawaiian shirts. And I learned that they don't pay any of the experts.
Really?
They have to go and, like, try to get their things on the air and, like, really push, and, like, it's like a weird, very stand-up like world where they have to.
I could see that though. That's hilarious.
So that's why
I know that.
Yeah, that's why some of them are like, I'm gonna be eccentric. I'm gonna wear weird suits. This will get me on. Like, just try to be stand out.
Makes sense.
It just reinforces the fact that showbiz is showbiz, even on PBS.
And also, I'm sure you know this, but if anyone doesn't, if you support your local PBS station for $5 a month, you get access to their streaming app, and you can watch every Antiques Roadshow ever. All on there.
Including the English one.
Including the English ones. Yeah, I found that I got drunk last year. I was like, you know what I want to do? Watch Antiques Roadshow.
That is very irresponsible.
I'm a fun person with hobbies. And I like found this out, and I remember like tweeting about it for weeks, and like nobody gave a shit. And I was so stoked that you could have all of PBS for $5, and I'm a big believer in like PBS.
Yeah.
And I like PBS and public libraries and universal healthcare. That should not surprise anyone.
They're all the same thing.
I love social welfare. I'm so into it.
And tote bags.
And tote bags. Yes, I also subscribe to like 5 newspapers. Like the New Yorker has the best ones, followed by the Atlantic, but you have to pay extra for theirs. So the next thing I watch on Monday prime time, there's a double back-to-back of Unwrapped at 9 o'clock and 9:30
with Marc Summers.
Marc Summers.
Yep, I would watch that show every episode, but here's the thing. Every single thing is made the same way. They put it in a big thing that tumbles.
Yeah.
Everything.
And then they spray some shit on it.
Yeah, that's like they go into this tumbler and then they're coated. Everything. I'm like, I know what's going to be.
And both of these are candy.
Oh, it's always candy.
It's always candy. No, you know what? I've seen bagel ones.
Oh, okay.
I saw like a bunch on bread. I remember seeing one on Tyson Chicken one time, and I don't think they ever aired it again because like part of it was that they go through like 1 billion gallons of water every week or something ludicrous. And I remember even being like 10, being like, that's irresponsible for the environment.
When you were growing up, did you ever go on a field trip to like a factory or anything like that?
Oh, we went to so many fucking factories.
Oh, did you? What are some of the ones you went to?
I grew up right down the road from the Celestial Seasonings Tea Factory.
Ooh.
I've taken the tour there probably 20-something times.
By choice?
Well, because whenever we'd have people visit us, we would always take them there. It's free.
Okay.
And it is super cool. They have it's called a robotic palletizer. I know this.
It's pretty exciting.
It's like a robot that senses what piles of tea need to be restocked where.
It's the future.
It's very cool.
I'm sold.
But I remember I went to the Jameson distillery in Ireland when I was like 15. That was with my family.
They give you a sample though.
They do actually, and they're very loose with their drinking laws in Ireland.
The Irish?
I know.
I've never experienced such things. Yeah.
It was really cool because they've made it in the same place since like forever.
Yeah.
And they show you like the old water wheel that they used to use, and also the Irish have this weird thing with mannequins.
What?
All Irish museums have mannequins, all of them, even the shitty ones that aren't like kept up well. You go to these little like house museums on like the west coast of Ireland, and they're just these creepy fucking mannequins like sitting there pretending to sweep or milk goats.
Well, that explains the #1 box office hit of all time in Ireland, Mannequin.
Really?
No.
That would make total sense to me if that was the case, because I don't know. I remember my sister's terrified. 13 and she had nightmares.
There's a movie, I'm a big horror movie nerd, and there's a horror movie called Tourist Trap that's just about killer mannequins. I'm still traumatized to this day by it.
Well, do not go to any discount museums or the Jameson distillery, which
in Ireland. Take a bunch of whiskey.
It's not as cool, but they don't have so.
I think you should start writing Yelp reviews that are just based around the mannequin quotient of various facilities.
That I went to 10 years ago.
Yeah. Mannequins, I give about 7 on the mannequins. Everything else, about a 4. So that's your educational Monday evening. What'd you do on Tuesday?
Yeah. On Tuesday, I would kick it off with Gilmore Girls.
Which I've never seen.
Oh, my friend. You are missing. Okay, I was just talking to someone about television shows. I was talking to one of my writer friends about shows that don't hold up well, but that were fantastic when they came out. And that's one of them.
Did you watch the reboot?
Yeah.
It's bad?
It's non-canonical.
Okay.
Non-canonical.
What was the mannequin situation like?
So I loved Gilmore Girls when it came out, and I love Mrs. Maisel. It's the same writer. It is some of the smartest, like, well-written female comedy I think that I've ever seen on TV, just in terms of, it's just reference after reference. And I remember reading about and listening to them talk about it, where their scripts were like double the length of like an average like 45-minute TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like spitfire dialogue, and it's really, really fun. And this episode it was a new one when it came out, and Norman Mailer appears as himself at the Dragonfly Inn, where he chats with the reporter. Rory has writer's block. So like a Norman Mailer would like guest star on this show. It got weird.
That is a little strange.
It was a very smart, very funny, and I still owe so much of my music taste and television taste, like as a kid growing up in pretty culture-starved part of the country. I remember like listening to them talk about like there's an episode where they go see the Bengals and they watch the Donna Reed show, and so that show so informed my media and television and music education.
But it doesn't hold up.
It doesn't hold up because it's such a like period of, I mean, it's Bush administration, white, liberal, East Coast feminism.
Right, so it's too of its time to be timeless, but was so of its time that it was great.
It was great, and I mean, the dialogue is still great. It's not at all, it wouldn't get on the air today. It's not at all inclusive. There's no one of color. There's a lot of jokes that we would not be able to make today, and it's of its time. But it's a fantastic show for what it is if you can let it exist in its time period and be like, good, we do better now.
Is there a show that you watch growing up that you revisit as like a comfort show?
That would be one of them for sure.
Okay, so you still even though it doesn't hold up, you'll still throw it on to like just chill.
Yeah, I mean, the dialogue holds up. The premise, I guess, is what I would say doesn't hold up.
What's the premise?
The premise is a mother-daughter, and the mother had the daughter at 16, and she's from a very wealthy, like, waspy Connecticut family.
Okay, so it's a teenage pregnancy.
And then she raises the daughter. It's like Lorelai, and then Rory is the daughter. It starts when Rory's 16. She's trying to get into Harvard, and it's them, like, making peace with the parents, and it's a fucking fantastic show. Like, the intergenerational, and actually watching the reboot again, I liked it better.
I'll put it on it's still on my list of shows I need to watch, and depending on how long we're all in our houses, I'll get to it.
I would recommend it. At least worth a shot if you like very smart television writing. Oh yeah, Madeleine Albright was on it one time.
Of course.
It's a weird show.
Of course.
And I remember it was a show for like smart, funny, weird girls.
That's good. They didn't have a lot of shows at that time.
They didn't. Next up, I would watch at 9 o'clock Decorating Sense with Joan Steffen on HGTV.
I am unfamiliar.
It was this super low budget show out of Minneapolis. It was for like a local Minneapolis station. I've since gone back and researched this because it was a huge part of my childhood. My mom loved it.
Oh, wow.
All the time. And I was this lady, Joan Steffen, and it was, Decorating Sense, CENTS.
On a budget.
Because it's on a budget. And there was like 3 segments, like she'd do like a room renovation for like $500. And then there was Trash to Treasure, where she visited her carpenter friend, and he would like make birdhouse holders out of old staircase spindles.
Of course, as you do.
That very like cottagey,
shabby chic,
early 2000s. It's so painful looking back on it. And then there was one where it was like no cost design, and they would just take things from other rooms of the house and like put them in a different room.
That's an episode where they're like, shit, we got nothing for this week.
Well, no, because each episode had all 3 segments.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they would do, each segment was like 10 minutes long.
I'll have to revisit. The last show I remember watching on, I think it was on that channel in the 90s. Did you ever see Christopher Lowell?
Yes.
That guy. I don't know where he went, but amazing.
I grew up on a lot of Carol Duvall show, New Yankee Workshop.
Oh, yeah.
My parents are both my whole family is super, I don't know how handy.
Okay.
Like, we renovated our house pretty much all ourselves. My parents my dad woodworks, my mom sews and makes jam, and
jeez.
Like, they're just very, like, my mom paints now. Everyone in my family is very handy and crafty. Like, I personally, renovate, like I fix up old furniture. That was something I did in college, like for extra money. I would find things on the street and like fix them and sell them. I'm a purist. So actually one of my degrees from Boulder is in architectural history. It's art history with focus in architectural history. So I love, my dad's the same way, we love old houses and restoring. And
have you seen Restored?
I don't think so. I love Rehab Addict.
Rehab Addict's good. Restored, which are all streaming on Prime. It's the guy who is the historical restoration guy from the Property Brothers.
Okay. He's
like a surfer dude, but wears cowboy hats. I don't understand it. Every single episode is in, I think, Thousand Oaks, California, or Riverside, California. It's amazing. They restore craftsman houses and like mid-century. It's just really weirdly satisfying.
It's super satisfying. That's what I like about Rehab Addict too, is that they go in, and that one's in Detroit and St. Paul, and they go in and try to help the neighborhood, and like they fix up the house, but they also build a community garden.
And they fix they fix everyone's hearts.
And her whole thing is just like, most things just need to be cleaned, and she's really right about that.
Right.
Like, most of the time the house is just dirty.
Just need a little love.
Yeah, and I love that kind of shit. And then I would follow it up with a episode of South Park on Comedy Central, which I was never allowed to watch when I lived at my parents' house, and then got super into in college.
So you just binge, like once you got to college and you could watch it, you're like, this is it.
Yeah, and South Park is in a mode of binge because it's every 6 days. So it's so timely. If you go back and watch like season 2 or 3, like some of it's funny, but a lot of it is like, what was this new story? Like, what is this a parody of?
Have you done the reading? You have to go back and research what was going on.
What was happening this week? Original air date?
Yeah, but are they the most famous graduates of University of Colorado?
They are definitely up there. They actually never graduated. They were kicked out. They were later given honorary degrees. They hacked into an early school computer system and changed their grades on a final.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I lived right down the street from where their house was, like the house they lived in, and they still rent it. It's rented as more because it's like the South Park house.
Right. Have you seen Cannibal the Musical?
Yes,
Yeah.
I've seen everything. I'm a big fan of huge.
I really love them. Favorite thing they did was when they wore the J-Lo outfit to the Oscars.
And we're on just a massive
Amount of acid, yeah. I even love Basketball. I know they didn't write it, but I like that movie.
Oh yeah, I love Team America.
Team America's fantastic.
I actually got my into Book of Mormon, which I was so surprised they went for.
But that thing's amazing. It's so mainstream. I can't believe it.
It totally is, but they just heard like from the creators of South Park, and South Park was persona non grata in our house. Just my mom hates especially anything where children are rude to parents. Like I wasn't allowed to watch like Rugrats or almost anything on Nickelodeon.
No sassy, precocious children.
No. I think I was already enough. She didn't need me finding role models.
Fair enough.
But I remember like them coming back from seeing like it was so funny and cute. And it's so topical. It's such great social commentary. And I had this whole conversation with my dad because he's a little more open-minded. And I was like, that's what South Park is. It's social commentary.
Right.
And I mistakenly tried to get him into it by having him watch Blame Canada because he was Canadian, and I thought he would think it was so funny.
Oh, was he offended?
He was like, people from Newfoundland do not fuck sheep or whatever it is. I was like, okay, I get it. Or fuck beavers or whatever.
That's from people from Vancouver.
Okay. What is it for? The Newfoundland guy's like a
no.
or something, yeah.
It'd be funny if you were like, you guys love Book of Mormon, here's Orgasmo.
Right. He could not get into that, but I'm glad I shared a little bit. Yeah, I do. I love their social commentary is so great.
You tried.
I tried.
Wednesday.
8 o'clock. There was not very much on Wednesday, 8 o'clock.
Wednesday in the 2000s was pretty barren.
Pretty bleak day. I can't imagine what else people were doing. But I went with Law & Order Special Victims Unit. Because again, and I was just saying this the other day too, there are no bad seasons of that show. They are all awesome.
Yeah, you know what you're getting.
Totally.
It's consistent. It's fast food TV.
Exactly. It's, it's going to be something to do with a 50 Shades of Grey parody, and Ice-T is going to say something awesome, right? When they, around, which, by the way, what a career that man has had.
Oh, from Breakin' 2.
Truly, just aspirational as fuck. And now he just roasts people on Twitter and has, a super hot wife.
Did you see that footage of him drinking coffee for the first time?
Yes.
Oh my god, that's my favorite thing that happened in 2019.
So I would watch that, and then I would follow it up with, again, not much on King of Queens.
A show that's
new that night.
Not bad.
I liked King of Queens. I also like Everybody Loves Raymond, which actually I think is a thing. I said I would watch Seinfeld after that.
Raymond's a much better show than King of Queens. I think just because Ray Romano's so much more likable than Kevin James, who I just hate.
I've been reading a bunch of stuff about people asking when Kevin James is going to get his Uncut Gems.
Good luck.
I want to happen. I want it to happen. I would buy a ticket.
He needs to play a real sick murderer or something, and
Yeah, we'll wait till it goes to the discount theater. But I will buy it.
But you will support it a little bit.
But to be fair, I wait till there's, okay, I did not know this when I moved to Hollywood. This was because again, I grew up in such a non-Hollywood household. But you get to see the movies 2 weeks early here.
Absolutely.
I did not know that. And I also grew up, I remember especially in high school when I got more into indie films and smaller, because it's insufferable. Being oh, this movie looks so great. I'd hear about it on the internet and it would be playing in New York and Los Angeles in select theaters. And I was there's so many movies I never got to see.
It was just enough to get nominated for an award, but not enough for anyone outside of cool places to see.
Imagine if Parasite had come out back then. No one would have seen it.
And you would have had to travel if you wanted to see it.
Totally, yeah. And no one would have gone with you because you're growing up in bumfuck nowhere football country. And
right.
No one wants to go to that.
That movie sounds queer. That's what they would say here.
That's exactly it. It would be whatever the Colorado version of that with standard American English because we don't have an accent.
Right, exactly.
Thursday primetime, I went off. I would watch, there was a documentary airing called Are We Safer? U.S. Security in a Post 9/11 Environment is Examined. Includes restriction on mobility, access.
That would be fascinating to watch now.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was I would love to do that now.
Because it probably would seem really cute and quaint, and we'd be like, oh, remember, that seems nice.
I actually think it would just be like upsetting because I remember then that was when they had put all those like just ridiculously arbitrary rules in place for airlines that are basically just security theater. Do not make us hurt.
Nope, and it's just so people can see us naked and laugh at us.
No, the TSA has never ever foiled a terrorist plot. They've never caught anybody.
And lots of guns get smuggled through every year on purpose and not.
Yeah, tons. Like, I cannot tell you the amount of times I have brought weed onto a plane. Like, I'm not going to say anything to implicate myself, but, like, there's been times where I was like, that's a lot of cash in my bag. You should, pull me over.
Are you guys sure about this? Yeah, like, the kids I know that I went to high school with, who are, like, the kind of fuck-ups that, like, would get sent to military school, they all work for the TSA.
Yeah.
They're the kind of kids, if I go to the airport, they're like, oh, what's up, Ken? Yeah, just go ahead. And I'm like, wait, I could have... Nah, whatever.
I've ran a couple bits about airports, and I fly so much that I do, and I think we were just talking about this too.
Oh, yeah.
Normally 2 weekends a month, usually, like, I'm in New York, or I'm in Vegas, or, like, I was supposed to be in Sacramento for, like, 5 days last month, because I do the feature dance circuit, so I travel all the time, and even before that, my whole 20 traveled a lot for different kinds of work, so I'm there all the time, and I did have this bit where, like, people just let me get away with everything at airports. Like, because I'm, like, small, and I'm blonde, and I'm unassuming, and, like, people leave for whatever reason. I think I just have a face like that. They're kids with me at the airport all the time.
Yeah, I have a similar thing where I'm like, no, I'm just like a semi-okay looking white dude. Like, don't trust me. I'm not going to do anything, but I feel like weird. People are like, yeah, no, you're fine.
The number of times I had, like, some young mom come up to me and be like, can you watch, like, little Jamie for just a second while I run to the bathroom, or, like, run to What's a Pretzel? Like, I am a stranger.
Yeah, I could sell this kid for parts.
You're not even supposed to leave your luggage unattended. They say that, like, every 5 minutes, lady.
Because that kid could be an explosive.
Dude, yeah, just because I'm, like, cute. So I went through a thing where I just started dressing super punk whenever I went to the airport. And I would wear, like, heavy motorcycle boots or, like, ripped jeans.
And it just got...
baseball cap.
They just trusted you more. You're like, now we trust you and we think you're tough.
It worked. People gave me a wide berth.
Nice.
I highly recommend dressing incredibly unfriendly at the airport.
Well, that's a hot tip for social distancing future.
Yeah, just look really... And scowl.
Scowling is very important.
I would follow it up Thursday primetime with Extreme Dodgeball 2.
Is that a movie or is that on ESPN or something?
It is on Game Show Network.
Oh, okay.
I have no idea what it is. I've never seen it, and I want to. It's an hour long, and they're playing a double header.
I wonder if that's when the movie Dodgeball was out and they were trying to do it. I would watch that. I'm going to try to dig that up now.
That I, to this day, love. That movie holds up. That movie is fucking hilarious.
I do love Dodgeball.
I love Dodgeball. I remember that being one of the first. I think it's like PG-13, right? And I think I saw it at, like, my cousin's house. My mom wouldn't.
That is a disrespectful film.
We got to, like, stay up, and I remember the scene where, like, Ben Stiller is, like, pumping up his, like, crotch.
Oh, yeah.
Like, when the lady's coming in, I remember having this visceral moment, be like, oh, I'd be so mad right now.
It's awesome.
I think I never just got over that thing, and I've just been chasing it for the last 15 years.
The dragon of Ben Stiller's crotch pumping and Dodgeball. We had a big breakthrough.
My mom would disapprove. Friday primetime, I have a great one. There was an episode of Hamtaro playing on Cartoon Network at 8 o'clock.
I am unfamiliar with Hamtaro.
As are most people.
It's hamsters?
Yeah, it's hamsters. It's about a hamster named Hamtaro. It's a Japanese import. The show is dubbed over.
Okay.
It's this bizarre cartoon. It was never big in the US. Like, I remember them, there was, like, Nintendo games and, like, plushes. I was so into it. I loved hamsters. Like, I had a hamster.
Okay.
I loved them. And I just thought they were, and I was, like, afraid of my hamster, too. Like, it bit.
Oh, yeah, they're unpleasant. They're very unpleasant animals.
Incredible. Did you know that hamsters were thought to have been extinct until, like, 1942? They were rediscovered living in Syria. They're native to Syria.
They were hiding out.
They were, because they live underground. Everyone just thought they'd gone extinct for, like, years.
Extinct things that hide underground in Syria usually aren't things people want as pets.
Yeah, I guess people probably weren't, like, looking. I don't think that was a super, I mean, I don't know much about Syrian foreign policy in the 1920s, but I don't think it was super peaceful back then.
There wasn't some great hamster hunt. Maybe if they had hamsters, everyone would have been a lot happier.
Yeah, anyways, Hamtaro was just this cute, and I had, like, a video game, too, where you had to, like, repair the friendships of the hamster. And, it was just this, I don't know. I was obsessed with it.
Sounds obsession worthy.
It was cute. It was kind of like a Hello Kitty thing.
Okay.
I was never super into Hello Kitty. I guess Hamtaro was a little less pink.
A little less
Really?
girly. It was a little tougher.
It was still definitely girly.
But
it
had
was,
some
like,
balls.
Yeah, I mean, they like went on little adventures and stuff. They had like jetpacks. None of it made sense. They lived in a hollowed out tree.
I mean, that makes the most sense out of anything you've said.
And they had jetpacks.
The jetpacks.
It was a normal children's television
Yeah.
show. I looked into it one time. I was hoping there was like more information on it, and there just wasn't.
There's your Finding Richard Simmons. You got to travel to Japan for a reality show,
Oh, man,
so
that'd
you
be
can
so
discover
great.
the secrets of Hamtaro.
No one would do.
Oh, big bucks.
Okay, so I had nothing at 8:30. I remember like looking over this and being like, nothing was on at 8:30 that I wanted to watch. So I would afterwards. The only other thing on Friday night, because again, I guess people were going out and having lives, unlike now, the good old days. I would watch What Not to Wear from 9 to 10.
I do enjoy What Not to Wear. Does it say if it's the British one or the American one?
I believe it's the American one because it was new and it was on TLC.
Okay, still good. Not as good as the British one, but, solid.
I've actually never seen the British one. I have seen the American one, and I remember my mom had like a very legitimate fear that we were going to sign her up for it.
Everyone I know was like, do not sign me up for
Do
that.
not. And she genuinely did not dress well in those days.
Does she now?
Much better. Yeah. My mom went through like an extended, I think she saw Annie Hall like too young. And the thing about Annie Hall is that Diane Keaton's dope in menswear.
Yeah.
But most people do not.
Diane Keaton looks dope in anything, and most people do not.
I have a very solid theory that I think Annie Hall would be a much better film if Woody Allen was not in it, and it was just like an hour and a half of Diane Keaton wearing dope suits.
I think someone could
doing things.
I wonder if someone could CG him out of every scene in Annie Hall and do like a Woody Allen-less Annie Hall.
But I adore that movie. But yeah, so she would wear a lot of like just very masculine, and then she always wanted to be able to pull off that really short haircut. But my mom has and much like me, she has very thick hair, really an enormous number of cowlicks. So she would cut it really, and like for most of the 90s, all pictures of my parents, my mom looks like.
She's got bedhead.
No, she got on Pinterest, and it really it did wonders.
Changed her life.
Changed her life.
What Not to Wear, I think they'd have a great spin-off show of just people who were nominated, and it was just footage of them being told they were nominated to be on the show and them losing their shit about who nominated them, and then they never went on.
I would definitely like to see the after when they finally come back and like the cameras are gone.
Right.
They actually like confront their kids.
You
like,
son of a
shit.
bitch. Yeah.
Like, I don't have any fucking gardening clothes, Kenzie. Are you happy?
Everyone saw me in my goddamn underwear. I hope you love me.
I was always so concerned about that too because I'm such a kick around clothes kind of person that I was like, well, what if like they threw away all their sweatpants?
You can't get those just anywhere.
Well, like, what are you gonna? Well, they don't buy new sweatpants. They only buy fancy clothes. Like, you gotta wear fucking slacks in your house on a Saturday morning.
You doing laundry in a ball gown?
Yeah. And as someone that owns several ball gowns, let me tell you, it's not. You can't wear those all the time.
No, that's not action clothes.
Yeah, and a lot of porn stars joke about this actually too, where it's like there is such a polar opposite between like on set and at home. Like even going to set.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me.
I show up looking like such a ragamuffin. And you also are always trying to wear clothes that are loose so you don't have lines, like indentations.
Oh.
Because when you get to set, you usually sit in makeup for like an hour to an hour and a half.
Yeah, that would not occur to me.
So you have to wear like baggy sweatpants and like t-shirts.
You just show up dressed like MC Hammer.
Literally, yeah. I mean, I go for more of like, oh man.
Like a Lisa Bonet in Different World look.
I have like a very homeless baby lesbian.
Oh, nice.
Like, it's a lot of flannel, a lot of baseball tees, like baseball. And I actually had a joke. I was joking one time. This wasn't even a joke. It turned into a joke. But I had been dating this guy who also was just a very basic dresser. A lot of baseball tees, jeans, Converse sneakers, hoodies. That's my thing.
Interchangeable wardrobes.
Yeah, like I'll dress up if I have to, but I'm fucking like, no. And especially like being a female comic too, like you really don't.
Right.
You kind of want to be a little androgynous. And anyways, we're getting ready for something, and I kind of said like, oh, I always get a little insecure when we go out to stuff like this because all of the other girls that are my age that have like office jobs and stuff that we'd be going out with, they dress so nice. And I like don't even know where you get clothes like that because it's not at the Goodwill where I shop.
Right.
And he like looked at me, he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I think you dress fine. And I looked at him, and looked at me, and we were wearing the same hoodie. Like we were dressed, we both had like blue jeans, baseball t-shirts, and the same red H&M hoodie on. And I was like,
we had to change something.
I was like, oh man, I was like, of course you think I look fine. We look exactly alike.
That's why we don't have any mirrors.
We don't have any friends. Saturday prime time. I think this is the last one.
Last night of the week.
I would start off with a little Trading Spaces. Again, very little on Saturday.
Yeah, you're sticking with the Home and Garden and the TLC.
I watched that's what I was watching at this point. I didn't watch a lot of, I still don't watch a lot of dramas. There's only been a few that I really was like, oh, I like Mad Men.
Gilmore Girls.
Gilmore Girls is more of a comedy. Gilmore Girls always felt like more of a sitcom to me, just because there's definitely soapy moments in it. I grew up and started watching comedy, but at this point I watched a lot of Home and Garden. So I'd watch Trading Spaces, and then I would watch, after that, the world's biggest candy show, the annual All Candy Expo in Chicago, is toured by Marc Summers.
Yes, I remember. This is how sad I am. I remember setting aside my Saturday night that night to watch that.
That's awesome.
I was very excited to see what they had for candy that year.
Like, what's the new?
Yeah, what's the new trend? And every year was always the same, because they did it a few years to be like, the biggest thing this year is sours.
Right.
It was never a big surprise.
No. I mean, there's a limited number. Like, they're not going to get on and be like, the biggest thing this year is Turkish Delight. Turkish Delight's fucking gross.
And I like Rosewater too, but I can't get behind Turkish Delight.
I agree. I feel ya.
Did you try it because you read about it in Harry Potter?
I tried it because it's not in Harry Potter. It's in Chronicles of Narnia.
Ah, there you go.
I definitely read about it in there, but I think I was just at some kind of fancy candy shop one time and they had it. And I was like, that sounds... And it's pretty.
It smells nice.
Yeah, it smells nice. I wouldn't sell my siblings to a witch for it.
No.
Although I only have one sister and we're not that close, so...
Well, I mean, what? All right, so let's get down to brass tacks here. What candies would you sell your sister for?
I shouldn't have said it. I mean, I like a good heart-shaped box of chocolate, so like a nice Whitman sampler.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because you get a lot, and I like the creams, and then like the chocolate-covered cherry. I don't like the nut butter.
So you're going for sort of quantity over quantity old lady candies.
Yes, I mean, like, I think it's decent quality, it's not like a Mars bar.
If Jessica Fletcher was a chocolate.
Dude, so my family, and this will not surprise you, whenever they take trips, everybody plans a thing that we do. This is important, and it's related to Jessica Fletcher.
Okay.
We'd have to, plan a thing, and we were going to California, we're going to Northern California, and I picked Mendocino, which is where Murder, She Wrote was filmed.
Excellent.
And I was, 13, and I made us stay at the Murder, She Wrote hotel.
We might see someone get murdered.
And go on, a historic walking tour of Cabot Cove. Because I was 13 and thought this was awesome.
Yeah, that's not living on the edge 13-year-old stuff.
Dude, I look back, I'm like, that's why you don't have friends in middle school. Dude.
Yeah. What'd you guys do this summer? I went to Jessica Fletcher.
Had a great time. They still talk about it as the highlight of that trip, so...
Well, that's nice that you were able to give them that time.
Yeah, my sister picked the sea lion caves in Oregon. And,
a little different.
It was cool. There were sea lions.
Yeah, but not as cool as the fictional Murder, She Wrote.
Not as immersive whatsoever.
Although now that would probably be a big sort of semi-ironic tour that people would go on.
Yeah, I've said it to people as an adult that I did that, and they're like, you're so fucking cool, that's so hipster. And I'm like, it was not at the time.
See, that's all it took. It wasn't that people didn't like you, it's that you were so much further ahead of them that it took so long for society to catch up to your coolness.
I honestly have been 40 since I was 11.
Yeah, that's been my approach as well.
Yeah, I went and did some wild stuff as a teenager and a young adult, for sure. But
I didn't even get to do that.
Really?
Very boring. Very boring. Yeah, I was in a punk band and people were like, that must have been, I was like, nah, I just drove.
I worked at a dungeon while I lived in Colorado, and I checked IDs at the door and made sure there was snacks.
Right.
And everyone would be like, that's so hot, you work at a dungeon. I was like, yeah, I refill the salsa, dude.
What was salsa the big snack there?
There's always snacks. Sometimes we had a full meal, which I always felt didn't need to happen.
Yeah.
I don't really I like chili, but I don't want to eat a bowl of chili and then go
no,
flogged.
That doesn't go well together.
It doesn't, and also the smells of chili don't go well. You know what? We had this conversation at staff meeting, and I was outvoted.
I think maybe you could be a consultant for Dungeon Cuisine.
I did renovate the bathroom there one time.
There you go. Full circle.
It was a very small, like, I got into lifestyle BDSM in college just because I was personally interested in it, and I ended up, that became kind of my, like, social thing.
Right.
And it was, like, my thing. So I worked, and we worked for, like, free entrance to the party so that we could, because we'd go, like, 3 or 4 nights a week. So we'd work, like, one night so that we could go in. It was a lot, like, it was kind of like comedy, I guess, where you'd, like, work the door. And then
You wouldn't think that.
It was a very small staff of people that, and, like, we were constantly, like, worried about, like, paying the rent on the space and, like, having fundraisers, and, like, we'd all have to stay at the end of the night and, like, clean up, and, like,
It was a small community dungeon.
it was a small, and most spaces are like that. I think people don't realize how, like, most of it was just work. Like,
Did you have tote bags?
most people use rolling suitcases.
Okay.
Because they're easier to store more accoutrement in.
Okay.
Yeah, we did not have tote bags. I think they had t-shirts at one point.
For $5 a month, you can watch all of the dungeon shows.
Right. I mean, at this point, like, it would be fun. It would be such a fun, like, podcast idea or something to do with, like, a staff like that.
Oh yeah, that would be
but-
there's your reality show.
Yeah, I long thought that there should be, like, some sort of sitcom-esque. Please no one steal this idea. I have not registered with the WGA yet. I have a treatment. Don't fucking steal it, guys. I will know. And also, like, you won't be able to write it because famously, like, portrayals of sex workers or BDSM people in the media is just... I honestly think BDSM people have it worse.
The only thing I can recall is the movie with Rosie O'Donnell and Dana Delaney, Exit to Eden.
I mean, I haven't even personally seen that one.
Yeah, that's so
but
boy.
that's-
Well, if you want to see Rosie O'Donnell in full leather S&M gear, then
I really do.
Exit to Eden is the movie for you.
I mean, there's, like, Secretary with Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Which is really fantastic, but then there was, like, 50 Shades of Grey, and that just fucked things up for us for a long time.
I've never seen that movie, but my only experience with it is I was in a FYE store in a mall when I was doing a comic convention in an abandoned JCPenney. And there were 2 very Boston-y guys in, like, full New England Patriots accoutrement. And one of them had a DVD in his hand, and this was the part of the conversation I walked in on. No, this one's 50 Shades DACA. And that was all I ever needed to know about that movie series.
I mean, it is Twilight fan fiction, if you needed to know anything else. I did once, I was in Seattle, and we were walking in, like, the apartment building that he lives in. It's, like, a real apartment building. It's very fancy. And I was there with my friend, and we, like, went into the lobby and were, like, fucking around. And then we got asked to leave, and so I got kicked out of Christian Grey's apartment building.
Nice.
A story that I made sound much cooler when I later told it to people. And, like, I
Of course.
my little sister's sorority were, like, messaging me on Facebook, being like, "Did you really get kicked out of Christian Grey's apartment building?" It was, like, boring. There was a lobby.
Yeah.
They weren't nice.
There was no Eyes Wide Shut stuff going on there.
No. Yeah, Eyes Wide Shut's another. That's never happened. And I think, too, people have this, like, and I guess this used to be more of a thing, like, back in the 90s and stuff, that there used to be, like, big porn star orgies, but that's not a thing.
That's what everyone says. They all make stories up about when they were around.
Yeah, no, it's like, we literally just, like, everyone goes to set and then goes home, and that's it. And most people are, even when, like, all this, like, coronavirus stuff started happening, and people were like, "Oh, are you going to keep shooting? Are you worried?" And I was in a very fortunate position where I could be like, "Okay, yeah, I'm just going to stop until this is over." But most porn people are fucking dorks. They go to a set, and then they come home, and they don't hang out with people.
Yeah.
They're not, like, I was like, honestly, of all of the people in the world, I'm the least worried about getting coronavirus with people. Like, they never
We stay
leave.
far away from most people and very close to a small handful of people.
Yeah, and so, like, they're talking about when they'll be able to, like, restart shooting, because the other thing is that companies are now running out of porn. Like, we're about to face a global, and I know this guy is great, we're gonna face a global porn shortage.
There's your supply chain issue.
Some companies will shoot way far ahead, like, months and months and months, but it all depends on, like, production schedule and kind of what. Normally, April is not a very busy month. February, March, May, and June tend to be fairly packed with shooting.
Huh, it's a seasonal business.
It's a very seasonal. It's like, everyone takes off at the end of July through August because it's really fucking hot. No one wants to work.
Ah, that makes sense.
And because it is, like, it's such a decentralized model where, like, you have, like, big companies like MindGeek and then all the sites they run, and they're all, like, they have corporate headquarters where that's, like, what's written and what, like, the script that gets sent to us comes from those offices.
Huh.
Like, I think something like 80% of Mind Geek staff have never actually been on a set.
That's very weird. It's like, maybe they aren't real people. Maybe it's an AI. It's like Skynet.
It's a bunch of fucking Canadian nerds in Montreal.
You know,
that's what it is.
I think that most of the world is probably run by a bunch of fucking Canadian nerds in Montreal, and we'll never know.
We often will get scripts and like the director, because they subcontract out to like certain directors, and most of them are in Los Angeles. And we'll get scripts sometimes, and it'll be like, you know, morning, jump cut to night, and the director will like, I've seen directors like throw scripts and be like, this is fucking like,
this isn't a script.
Like, they don't understand anything about production limitations, because they send the orders then to different directors, and we just like shoot and send it in and because they weren't expecting this, nobody was expecting this. A lot of sites are running out of porn to release.
They need some sort of Farm Aid style bailout. Yeah.
We're also not eligible for the federal stimulus check, so we're not eligible for small business loans. Yeah.
Ironically, given who the president is.
Trump has been in 2 softcore pornos for Playboy. If anyone's wondering. I said that to my parents, and they're like, now you can never be president. I'm like, first of all, that wasn't going to happen.
That wasn't the main concern here.
I did a lot of drugs in bitch. That was never going to happen. But I was like, secondly, like, actually, I don't know how to tell you this, but I can. So yeah, we're not getting any of that, which I also think is just truly strange, because when I file my taxes, I list my occupation as, I think, an actress.
You're an independent contractor.
Yeah, and like nothing about my business like license is tied to it. Like, I just have a standard LLC in California.
Mm-hmm.
And like, so I don't understand how they know. I mean, it's the government, so I guess they know.
What list are you on?
Yeah, right? Like, when does this, because, like, the IRS is very short-staffed. Like, who is sitting at the IRS making lists of porn stars?
Probably everybody.
Yeah, I guess.
You work at the IRS, what else is there to do?
They're not auditing anyone.
Nope. They have a good high-speed internet connection, and they're making lists.
And probably making more money than me.
That's true.
So.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, that's something we can explore in our next careers, when no one can leave the house and we're not allowed to interact with people and have to find jobs.
You know, and like, honestly, I'm digging it. It is a little hard for me. Like, I miss going to shows.
Yeah.
Really miss going to shows.
I haven't hit that wall yet, but when I do, that's when you know it's bad.
I had stopped going to shows for like a couple of I probably did my last show in like February, because when this did start happening, and because we didn't know how bad it would be.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't think we were going to get shut down, but I did think like, oh shit, people are going to get sick. And because my job is very dependent on me being not sick, I was like, if I'm going to get anything, it's going to be from a fucking open mic.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, like anything where guys, like, and I have a bit about this too, because fucking dudes, like, hold the microphone straight up to their...
Oh, it's right in their mouth.
Like, they touch it, yeah. And first of all, I can't do that because I have makeup on, so I would get a nice white splotch on my chin. And I was like, this is fucking gross. So I had stopped going because I was not worried about, like, at that point dying. I was worried about getting a bad cold.
Well,
and being like, oh shit, I'm laid up and I can't go to work for, because that's a very real thing in porn. If you get hurt.
There's not a lot of call for that.
No, and like, I've had girls that were I've known girls that were out of work for weeks at a time because they had like a bad acne breakout.
Oh my.
Yeah, and so you really have to, if you're shooting professionally, like, you have to keep every inch of your body. People won't think about that, like, because everyone sees everything. Everything has to look perfect. And if you have bruises or pimples, especially like on your butter, people will not shoot you. They will send you home, and you will have to pay a kill fee, $600 usually.
Jeez, it's like the opposite of stand-up. I'd pay a lot of people $600 not to have to watch them perform.
Right. And it's also one of those things where it's like, if you do that, like, everyone has a bad day. But if you get a reputation, it's because it's a small industry, and
you're done.
Someone that like shows up, you're so quickly done. And I lived with a girl that had happened to when I first moved to LA, and I was like just getting started my career.
And you were living with the blacklisted girl?
Yeah, and like, I hadn't known that this had happened. Like, and she seemed like a nice girl. And then like, everyone was like telling me this, and they're like, yeah, like, you don't associate. I was like, shit. I was like, okay,
I haven't even started.
Yeah, I haven't even started. And I was like, all right, and like, we obviously, it did not work out because there was some very weird, and she didn't know that she was blacklisted.
They never do.
Tell you.
You don't get a letter?
Yeah, no, it's not like if you were like on like McCarthy's list, like in the 50s.
You don't have to wear a scarlet B on your shirt?
Yeah, nobody like tells you, like, hey, you gained, like, they don't send you a letter being like, you gained 10 pounds and your skin looks greasy, so sorry, your
Really?
career's over.
I get letters like that every day.
It's just like, I don't know why I'm not working, and I just have to sit there like, me neither.
Right. I have no idea.
And I'm so bad at keeping secrets. I was like, this is very stressful for me.
So you just moved. That was the only way out.
I mean, it also just turned into, like, because my career was just starting, and I didn't get a lot of success until, I mean, honestly, the thing that made my porn career so much more successful was comedy, which I had not intended it to be.
That seems counterintuitive based on comedians I know.
I think it was just a thing where, like, people, because I did that show, and then I had started doing, like, more podcasts, and I was on a couple of big ones, and so people started to, like, know about it, and it's kind of nice, too, because, like, within the porn industry, that's, like, my thing.
You've carved out a niche.
Yeah, like, whenever I run into people that I, like, kind of know at events, they're just like, oh, you do the jokes. And I'm like, yes, I do. Thank you. Like, now this is less awkward for me.
The Marc Summers of pornography.
Yeah, because someone called me, like, the porn pundit the other day, which I thought was funny. Because I'm also, like, I mean, a lot of my stand-up and comedy in general is political, and it's really observational. And I started doing that, and then I did Tom Segura's podcast in November. That one just, like, boom. And so then all of a sudden I was, like, trending on Pornhub, and my career got, like, but the first year in porn, I'm still, like, a pretty middle-tier performer, which I'm fine with. It's a very competitive industry. I'm happy with my success, and I'm not deluded that it's, like, greater than it is.
And who knows who will be alive and who will be dead when we all emerge from this. Yeah,
and who will even be still in it. But that was really the thing where, and I tell new girls this now, where I'm like, you know, if there's something else you want to do, it's so important to carve out. One, it's so great to have a job that lets you get to go do creative, fun things without worrying about the rent and having to get up at 7 o'clock a.m. to go to your job every day. I mean, that's a huge, huge part of why I got into porn.
The schedule?
To try to do, like, a creative career. Like, I don't have
Right.
a trust fund, and I don't have parents that were willing to bankroll that at all.
Right.
If I wanted to be a comic or a writer, and, you know, I always wanted to be a writer. That was what I was going to be. And I, you know, wanted to be funny, and I wanted to be able to pursue that kind of creative career in life. And our system is so, I am very passionate, it's so fucked up now that in order to pursue a creative career, you basically have to come from immense privilege.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Because you have to be willing to work for free, and I was never able to work for free.
Yeah, and we don't have art grants like they do in Canada and other countries, so it's difficult to do. But who knows? I think the world will be very different in the coming year.
Yeah, I agree. I think it will be. I hope it will be.
We'll see where the dust settles.
Yes, we will. Well, it was really fun talking to you.
You too. Thank you so much for doing this. And
of course.
Once dust settles, I'll hopefully be back out in LA and may see you in person.
Yes, that would be very fun.
Excellent. Cool. Thank you so much.
Oh, baby, I see you in my TV set, yeah, baby, I see you in my TV set. I cut your head off and put it in my TV set.
There you go. That's Kate. Great time talking to her. She has a wonderful laugh. But she's very smart, very funny. I would say I'd put up links, but you can search her if you want to see her adult work. She would like you to go to her OnlyFans, which is a great way to support adult entertainers in this difficult economy. And you can pay them directly. That is where that happens. Anyway, this was a fun episode. As I said, I'll be doing more and more remote episodes. So I am improving my technical skills and my equipment. So hopefully you won't even notice they're remote next week or the week after, as I become just an amazing expert in recording remotely. In the meantime, feel free to contact me on social media at TV Guidance or at Kenneth W. Reed. You can go tvguidancecounselor@gmail.com or ken@icanread.com. I am going to try to convince more people to do remote episodes, so I am committed to not missing a week. We haven't missed a week since our very first episode on Valentine's Day 2014, and I am committed to continue to do that, at least till I get to episode 500. What are we at, 408, something like that? But then there's the ones I didn't count, so we're actually at like 450. Someone who's better at numbers can tell me where we're at. Anyway, thanks to Kate, had a great time talking to her, and we'll see you next time on a brand new edition of TV Guidance Counselor.